everybody, it's me, Laura, and today I'm back with another Madness Makeover number 16, and this time we're dealing with a little bit of snow and one little gnome. What can I say? I had to go back to this, right? I mean, it's cold outside, so might as well. Anyways, this is the set of earrings that I decided I wanted to go ahead and do a madness on. It's all metal. They look great, but you know, I thought we could change this up and do something even better. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and I'm taking my my pliers and I'm going to take my wire cutter and I'm just going to disassemble this set of earrings and just try and see what kind of parts I get off of it. Now, I do get to a point where, you know, they all have the little loops where they're all kind of linked into each other. Eventually, I get to a point where I thought, you know what? I thought I was going to use all of the parts, and then I thought, no, I got to get rid of some of these little loops because it's not working for me. And really what I mean by that is just that these metal pieces, they're all linked in together. And you can't keep all the little loops where you could, you know, possibly link them into something. You're going to have to take it apart. And I could use a pliers, but some of it was like, no. Even if you use a pliers, sometimes these metal pieces, they'll just kind of like break on their own anyway. So for me, it was just a matter of getting rid of some of it. Now, in this case, when I was on that middle part, that solid silver middle part, I had to eventually go in with my Dremel and clean it off. So I used a metal disc when I did that and just cleaned off the rough edges on the side of those silver pieces. All right, so right here, I'm showing you where I'm actually going to plan out this set of jewelry. I really was kind of at a loss. There are some times when I do a madness, I'm like, I don't know where to begin. And so to me, I took some mud clay. This is rolled out a #1 setting. And I had some long dangle cutters by Tainsky, and I'll put the link to that in the description area for you. But I really liked these because they were a little bit wider than a few of my other long dangle cutter sets, even including my Keoker set. And so that's why I went to the Tainsky. Now, when I was placing these down too, you could tell, look at that. The larger piece is it's pretty wide. So you want that to work into a wide piece somehow of clay. You want it to work into a wide sort of feature. And I wanted to use the dangles because I thought it kind of goes along the same lines as to what the original set was, but it's going to be different, right? And the more I started looking at it, the more I'm like going, guess what? I thought I could use that little loop, the little circle parts on the end there, and it just wasn't happening. It was just not going to happen. I thought, okay, if this is not going to work, okay, take that off. And then let's see how it will work itself into the design. Now, I do this, you know, I take off as little as possible, okay, when it comes to these metal pieces, because you can't go back. Once it's done, right? But in this case, it was just like, this is getting in the way. It's not going to help me with the design. Take it off, and then let's see where we are. And so those wider rhinestone V's, yeah, it was definitely a good idea to take off those loops on the end. And I found that that wider cutter, it was like, yeah, that works pretty good. This is why I'm using the different shapes in the Tainsky long cutters, because I thought, I didn't know which one would work well with it. And if you have a general idea of which shapes you like to work with, take those, take some mud clay, whatever clay, and just try and figure out what your design in general, where you might want this to go. Okay, I usually don't plan like this, but like I said, sometimes when I'm having trouble with a project, I'm like, okay, take out what I want to generally use, and then let's see what we come up with. Okay, so we're going to start creating our first pendant, and I'm bringing in, that's some mud clay there that has been rolled out on a number 6 setting, okay? And then I'm coming in with this sheet of dark blue and then turquoise and then light blue pearl. That's all been blended together, and I'm placing it over that mud. And again, that has been rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. Now, I know you guys are like, these are very thin sheets of clay. And I'm like, yeah, they're very thin because one, I thought I wanted something to back this dark blue. I didn't want it this thin, okay? And the reasoning for that is when I go to bring in my cutters, I wanted to make sure that that blue I could extend out and have more of it to work with. Because, you know, this is a nice blend. I really love this blue, dark blue to light blue blend. And I wanted to have enough of it so that I could do a pair of earrings, you know, a pendant, actually 2 pendants. And so I have to plan a little bit ahead of time for that. And I also had to plan a little bit ahead of time for the fact that, what if I mess up once or twice or whatever? Yeah, I need to make sure I have enough of my blend here to redo it if I have to. Okay, so now that I have my clay put down and I brought in my Pucon stencil, I'm also going to bring in some heavy body Liquitex white acrylic paint. Now, you could use the other types of paints, but the reason why I picked this is because it's easier to control. Also notice here, I am bringing in, this is a, you might say a sculpting kind of tool. Got the little rubbery ends. I don't know what they're called, I'm sorry. But I'm bringing in that as the thing that I'm going to be putting the paint down onto the stencil. It works, and the reason why it works so well with this heavy body is because, one, the main thing here is being able to control it. I only wanted a certain area of these snowflakes to show up on the clay. I didn't want the whole sheet. I thought, no, let's not have the whole sheet. I want to be able to have just a certain area, and there you could see. The reason is because we're going to do our little Gnome guy in here, and I wanted to have just a certain look, okay? Now, as soon as you get done with that stencil, put it in kind of warm water and take off the paint right away. You want to get that off of your stencil. Now notice here too, I brought in my gnome stencil, and again with that white paint, I picked one little guy. I loved him. Yeah, this is really nice. I love this sort of thing. Just taking one little thing and boom. There you go, baby. Yes, I love it. And then I'll bring in that cutter, and right here you can see, yeah, I'm positioning it over the area that I really like on that blue. It's already dried up. Bring in my deli sheet and then cut down with my cutter. So here I'm bringing in one of the metal pieces, and we're going to use this really as the hanging mechanism because this is the pendant, right? So this first pendant, I thought, let's go ahead and place that right at the top. There's a little tiny hole right up there. I thought that would work really good. And then I'm bringing in, now this is the other cutter set. This is my Christmas cutter set, the Keoker set. And I do believe, I've worked with this one before in a couple other videos. I will still, again, I'll have links to this particular cutter set and to the one that I'm using when it comes to the Tainski long dangles, as well as the silk screens here in this video. So if you're wondering what tools, where did I get them, I'll have the links. Let me know, because I had somebody tell me, Laura, the link isn't working. If the link doesn't work, let me know. Somehow, sometimes they change up the designation area or whatever when it comes to the linking in on the materials that are used. And if sometimes too, they'll even take them down. So I'll find a comparable kind of tool that would work for you in this regard. Now, as you could tell here, I had that silver sheet of polymer clay. It was rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. I want these to be fairly thin. And I use that little tiny snowflake cutter, and I'm just creating these little snowflakes and placing them into the design or into the necklace piece itself. Now, once I get this done, I then bring in some of my little pointed back rhinestones, and I thought, let's place that into these little tiny silver snowflakes. Nice little feature that you can do to it, and it gives it a little bit more life, right? A little more flash. And who doesn't love the flash, right? I do. Anyway, that's double. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Anyways, also bringing in just a few extra little rhinestones and placing them into the background as well. Once I get all these rhinestones placed into the pendant though, I will go ahead and bake this thing at 275 degrees for about 7 to 10 minutes. And again, this goes without saying, well, with saying, that check your altitude, your environment, where you live. I live in a very dry area, so baking for some reason to me goes fairly fast. In your area, it might take a little bit longer, could be quick. You know, just figure out where you live. It makes a big difference when it comes to baking the clay. Anyways, I'm also bringing in some liquid sculpting. Now this has been baked already, okay? And a little bit of super glue, and we're just gonna back this. Now you don't have to do this part, but I really wanted to. I want a nice backing. The brown was just not doing it for me. And the clay that I'm placing it down on, it's about a number, was rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And then I'm just taking my needle tool and I'm just tracing around that fresh clay from the baked piece. Once I have that done though, I'll rebake this again for about 7 to 10 minutes, let it cool, and then I'll go ahead and finish it all up. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and create a set of earrings to kind of match up with our little Gnome pendant piece, right? And I'm bringing in my cutters, my Tainsky cutters, and the thing is, I like these long dangle kind of pieces, right? Okay, these cutters. However, sometimes they're a little too long. Like I want them a little bit shorter, and I'm thinking, okay, it works, but I want a little bit shorter of a dangle piece. Okay, I don't want it quite so long. So I decided to take some of my mud clay here. The mud clay was rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. As you can tell here, the long area between the 2 points, it's about 1.25 inches, a little bit longer, right? So I'm measuring an area where I'm thinking, okay, let's go ahead on that mark, and I want to say it was about 1/4 inch, right? And then I'm kind of taking in right at the 1 inch mark, and I just made a little indent. I'm going to cut that down, right? And I'm going to cut the other side down, and I'm going to remove that. I'm going to take out that center section. And then once I take out the center section, I'm going to move the 2 points together, right? And I'm like, yeah, that could be kind of fun. This is also why I did not put down my dark blue to light blue clay yet. I wanted to get this down where, okay, I like that particular, might say backing, okay, my foundation, if you will. And then once they look like they're, it's a little bit shorter, it takes out that length. I don't necessarily need it to be really long. This is where you could play with your cutters and say, okay, I like that, but I want it a little bit shorter. They don't have to be just the way that they're given to you. You could play with them, okay? Right here, I'm coming back in with that dark blue to light blue clay. I'm going to place it right over the top of these 2 pieces, and then I'm going to bring in my my blade here first, because I don't want to mess up all the extra, right? And then cut off the excess, bring in those cutters one more time, and this time what you're going to do is you're going to find that point, right? Bring in your deli sheet, kind of run that deli sheet over that clay, This way you figure out where that point piece is and then reform it and then cut down with your cutter. This way then you get that same kind of look again, but you're going to come back in and take that same cutter, come up from the bottom, and you'll cut down and you'll have a shorter piece of that long dangle. I do hope I explained that right. Sometimes it's hard. But as you could tell right here, this is what I'm talking about. I'm coming down further on that clay where the mud clay is underneath, and it gives me the form that I need, and it's shorter. So that's what I'm trying to sort of say. I think my hands do it better than I do sometimes. Anyways, and then I'm lifting off the extra clay, taking away any kind of extra that's around this thing. Use your blade also to kind of define up your lines if you need to. I use it with my Exacto knife, but I also come in with my straight blade there, and this way then I get a nice clean look. Now once I have that done, I'm also going to bring in that same snowflake silk screen, and I'm placing only a few specific little snowflakes right over the top of this, and then I'm coming in with that heavy body one more time, and I'm just going to bring in that acrylic paint and paint right over on that stencil. This is where, again, you only necessarily need just a little bit of that stencil to really define up itself. Again, I had to wash that real quick and then come back in and do it the same. You know, I really wanted to have the same snowflakes just so it match up a little bit. Now, you don't have to be matchy-matchy like I'm doing. Apparently, nowadays, that's not a thing, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, but I did kind of match them up, and it's kind of nice because I could pick out just a few of a particular area of that stencil and define it. Now I'm coming back in again with those crazy Christmas cutters I had from Keoker, and I'm just, cutting out a few of my snowflakes in my silver clay. We are going to add these in to the earrings. And yes, this clay has been rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. I like to kind of keep the clay a little bit thin here. And part of it is just because, when it gets really, really thick, it's almost a little unwieldy. So once I do that, I'm also bringing in then the metal pieces from my original set of jewelry, and I'm placing them at the top of one of the points there, okay? Out of the whole set of that old jewelry, the top part was my favorite. I thought, oh, those look so pretty. And I just couldn't wait to place this into a clay piece that would just make them shine. I think in the original set they were okay, but when you add in the clay, it makes such a difference. Now right here, I'm lifting up a couple of those little clay snowflakes, and notice I used the corner of my tissue blade, right? I do that, and it takes away the little extra fine clay when I cut down with it. I don't know why. That seems to work pretty good. So keep that in mind. I mean, it's just kind of a simple thing, really. But sometimes those little simple things can make it, save you time, first off, in having to clean off those little tiny snowflakes. And second, those snowflakes then have a much cleaner look when you place them down into the earring set. Now once I get these snowflakes, these little gray snowflakes put into place, I'm going to lift off the metal pieces, and then I'm going to bring my cutter back in, and I'm going to recut the form once more. So this way then the little parts of the snowflakes, those gray snowflakes, they're kind of hanging off of these earrings. Those get cut away, and then you have a nice clean line to work with when it comes to the earrings. Plus, once you do this, it looks like it's kind of like it's been framed that way. Now, once I clean up around the earrings, I also place the metal pieces back in. And then when I get this kind of cleaned up and all the little extra parts taken away from the earrings, I'm going to bring in my pointed back rhinestones, and I'm going to place those into the little gray snowflakes, kind of like how I did on the pendant itself. Once I have that done then, I'll go ahead and bring in some silver clay, and it will be rolled out on a number 6 setting with my Atlas pasta machine. And I'm going to back this. Now, the earrings themselves have been baked at this point. So again, 275 or 300 if you use Kato clay. I'm using a little bit of my super glue and a little bit of my liquid Sculpey to go ahead and attach this into the fresh clay. I wanted just a nice backing. Like I said, I had mud under there, so I thought this would be a great way to do it. Once the earrings have been completely baked, we're going to come back in and I'm going to bring in some E6000 because there's really no other way to do this. Just some E6000 to attach in the top part, the metal pieces to the top part of our earrings. You could use super glue, but eventually, for some reason, it's just not tough enough. And I don't really have another good way to keep that metal piece attached to the clay. So the E6000 is my best bet. Once I have this in though, here's the thing. There was those two little tiny loops on the side of the metal pieces there, and I thought, let's play with that. I was thinking about putting a couple of rhinestones on either side, but I thought, nah, that's too redundant. It's like, okay, yeah, it's more rhinestones. No, let's not do that. Instead, what I do is I bring in a metal chain, and I just had some leftover metal chain. I'm also bringing in my little earring findings and stuff that'll attach in at the top. But I wanted to add some chain here. I thought this could be really fun. I'm also taking out the rhinestones. I'm going to use a little bit of super glue to make sure that they get permanently affixed into the earring set itself. But once that's done, I'll bring in some chain. And I'll have two pieces of it, and as you could tell, they were measured out at about 3 inches each, right? I'm also bringing in some very tiny little jump rings. This is the smaller type of jump ring, which always drives me a little more bats. And the thing is with the chain, it worked. Sometimes the jump rings will not go into the chain you're working with, especially if the chain is really fine. I was lucky here. The chain was pretty fine, but the jump ring was able to link into the chain, and I was able to add it into the earring set itself. And I just thought I wanted to go ahead and add in a little bit of a loopage with that chain around into the earrings, just a different kind of feature to it, instead of just doing rhinestones in those little loop areas towards the top on the main metal piece. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and create our second pendant piece. I have some brown mud clay here that's been rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And I also have those 3 metal pieces left. That's pretty much what I had. I thought, okay, and they were the wide pieces. These were the ones that were giving me such trouble where I was like, how am I going to use this? How am I going to make it work? So I took the largest Tainsky cutter here that I had that was it had a nice little scalloped look on the bottom and everything. But the main reason why I used it was because it was so wide. I needed something wide enough to work with those metal pieces, and this one worked the best. So I'm bringing in that nice blue gradient, again, that was rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. I'm kind of forming it over that mud clay. I'm even using my burnisher tool here to kind of define it back up again so I know where all the little edges are. So when I line up my cutter, I could press down and I'll have a nice kind of piece all together. And of course, I'm bringing in my deli sheet. I'll then cut down, and then once I do, then I'll have the piece that I can work with overall. So I'm lifting that up. Oh, I just love that blue. I just love, and you'll notice I have a little bit of some extra around the pendant. I'm just going to lift that up off of my with my blade and get rid of that. All right, so now I'm going to start placing down those little metal pieces onto this pendant piece that I formed up here for me, and it really works well. You can tell it's just wide enough that those little V's, or I should say those wider V's, works well together. And I'm placing both of them together I'm not going to alter this like I had done with the earrings where I made them shorter. I'm just going to keep that same length. And a lot of it is because I've got a lot here to work with and I want to add in some fun feature. I want to bring that silkscreen back in and use that in this pendant piece. But when we do it, I'm going to do it in a specific area. Again, it's a case of using just a specific area of this silkscreen to get only one part of it on the clay piece itself. And when you work with the silk screens in this sort of fashion or feature, it makes your pieces more unique because you're not going to be using just the whole thing and just like, okay, let the whole silk screen down and then make the cutter piece and there you, no, no. To me, I'm like going, let's go ahead and use a little bit more of a selected area and detail it out where it's more of an interesting piece to look at. So once I got all the metal pieces put into place and I took that final metal piece, I placed it at the top because that's going to be where it's going to have the jump ring so you can use it as a pendant, and that'll be right up on top there. Once I had that though, I was looking at the snowflake field that I had going on and I thought, let's bring in one of my little ball tools and just add in some little dots of that white paint and make it look like it's more filled out, right? I didn't want to put a gnome in this particular feature. I wanted to have a little bit more of a serious kind of look with just my snowflakes, just that nice kind of look. And then again, I'm bringing in my cutters here. And yeah, that one kind of broke away. And that's okay though, because then I have more control of being able to push down on just the one cutter I want, and I don't have to worry about the others getting in the way. Anyway, I created a couple of those snowflakes on my silver clay, which was rolled out on a number 6 setting yet again, and then using my needle tool, place the snowflakes into the pendant piece itself. But from here, guys, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let you guys just watch my hands talk as I finish up this particular pendant piece. All right, so this is the end result of creating my snow and gnome jewelry in polymer clay. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.